it's not too long ago you stepped down from Saxo after close to 25 years there. So I know it's going to be very hard to summarize, almost 25 years, but how was the feeling, best memories? What are sort of like, what's the reflection after being able to have such an interesting path for so many years and decades?
Couple of highlights being I joined Saxo before it became a bank, and I was part of the journey that took us from less than 50 people to 2,500 people, a capital market value of whatever 13 billion Danish. From when I first bought into the company, the equity capital was smaller than my last bonus from UBS. But credit there goes to the two founders and not me, but I was part of that journey. I was part of the original group of people for 25 years, I should say. So very proud of that. But what I say sort of on a personal level I'm most proud of is the amount of people I've mentored through the process. I think most people who have worked for me will say I'm not exactly a softie. I am not exactly, I'm borderline ignorant. Arrogant people will say, but in the process I've created some phenomenal, together we have created some phenomenal people that come out to all of the institution in the world. And I think if I look at the product that was there at the time, of course, Saxo's strategy and Saxo, the way we engage clients was well received. And of course, our Rage Predictions became probably the biggest brand name in economic forecasting. So much so that central banks started to invite me to come and do seminars on how we do it for their risk management. But to be honest, it went like a bleep on a radar. It went very fast, and for me, it was pretty much, when I think about it, it was like 5 years ago I joined Saxo, but it is 25 years ago almost now, and it's been a great journey, great company, probably the most international company in Scandinavia to work for. And been like that since day one. It's never been Danish. It's never been solely European. It's been a global business. But having said all that, I'll say in sports terminology, I think I left everything on the pitch. I didn't have anything more to offer, and I don't think I had more to offer Saxo, and I don't think Saxo had anything more to offer me. So I'm very happy with my role. Unfortunately, I figured out I'm actually more busy today than I was when I had a full-time job.
Yeah, because this was not like a retirement scheme.
No,
you're gonna keep going and run for 20 more years.
I'm going to try to be not like I'm not trying to be Charlie Munger, but but when people talk about retiring, playing golf, whatever, I look at them with dismay and say, what the hell are you going to do that for? I'm not going to retire. I'm gonna die one day in a board meeting or an advisory board or trading Eurodollar.
And that's going to be okay for you.
It's going to be fine, and I think my family fully accepts that as well.
I loved, I read a story about you where you talked a bit about, the mentoring, and that you are radically honest. When people ask you for feedback, they'll get it. It's not going to be sugar-coated anything. So, but how does that play out in that sort of relationship? Can you give any examples? Like, what does it mean that you are so honest to people when you're trying to develop them?
So I'm sure he's happy for me to tell. I had this French economist who always thought he should have bigger bonuses and better terms. And one time he came back to me and said he's been offered, I think, 20,000 euros somewhere to go. And I go like, I said, you want my honest opinion? He said, yeah, that's why I called you. I said, listen, if you're going to move for 20,000 euros to a job that is inferior in both of content and what you can contribute, I'm never going to talk to you again. Let me put it out there. I'm never going to talk to you. But I will tell you, if you stick with me for another 2 years, I'll make sure your CV is so good that you can go to any institution. And today he's the chief economist at a private bank in Switzerland. And he's been thanking me, again and again for putting him right. But I don't tell people what to do. I just tell them that you have two choices. You have the choice that you get 20,000 euro here, which is going to mean after tax nothing, as the guy was in France. Or you can accept that we together will create a journey. So the way I designed people working for me to work was that I took 90% of their time, but 10% I deliberately left for them to extend and improve their CV. So this guy became one of the best guys in the world on liquidity, following liquidity, global liquidity. So that's what made his name. So I'm always looking for, in the mentorship, I'm not looking for how many PhDs you have or how smart you are. I know you're smart. I mean, otherwise you wouldn't be in the job. What I'm looking for is how are Christopher different from the next guy who has the same background? What is it that makes you more interesting? What makes you more interesting is to do something that you really feel for, where you really have, you know your facts. So that's kind of how it works. But there's also examples of the opposite, where I've been tough with someone and they left, almost crying. But I have to say, in the management group in Saxo, I had the highest seniority with my employees. No one in my team in the last 10 years has left. So, the average tenure was more than 10 years on average for everybody. And this is a group of 12, 14 people at the time I stopped.